Hello YouTube. I wanted to make a quick video on what my first impressions are for the new patch, the third edict patch for Path of Exile 2. I've been playing it for about 6 hours since it was released, which was around 11 PM my time, so it was already pretty late. And I'm not as young as I used to be, so I can't go on these really long gaming marathons anymore. It just makes me feel awful. And I'm pretty tired. And I actually had to restart this video several times because I'm kind of tired and I've been stumbling over my words. So hopefully this version is the version that actually goes through. And fingers crossed for that. So just to recap what my experience was, in the 6 hours that I've been playing, I play Hardcore SSF. I ascended to a Titan. I'm playing a Warrior with Mace. I'm playing a Mace Warrior, and I'm not using any shields. I don't like shields in my power fantasy. I like hitting things with a massive hammer. It's always been my favorite fantasy. I've always played big hammer builds in every single RPG, both in computer game form, video game form, or on like tabletop RPGs and whatever. There's something that really appeals to me about hitting your enemies with a big mallet. It just feels it feels like home. And it's what I went for this time, and I was surprised by how okay it's been so far. And I'll get into why it's felt okay in a little bit, because I don't want to make this too long. I do need some rest after all. So, yeah. Playing Hardcore SSF, about 6 hours, halfway through Act 2, and I could have probably gotten to the start of Act 3 if I rushed through it, but I didn't. I didn't have any build plans. I spent plenty of time in between leveling trying to figure out what I want to do. I've been reading a lot of the support gems, and I've basically been taking it very chill, and it's been fun for me. Also, to preface anything I'm about to say, I like Path of Exile 2. I've liked it since release, even on O2 when everyone was really angry at release. I was okay with it. I was fine with it, but this significantly feels better than O2's release. Like, even though I wasn't as angry as most of the players at the start of the second patch, the first couple of days of that felt really, really frustrating. But the loot patches that they did to that and the other small adjustments include, and on top of that, the stuff that they added in this patch, I think makes for a much better experience. So if you thought about skipping the patch because O2's launch was a little scuffed, give it a try. I honestly think the patch has been fine so far. Now, there are a couple of criticisms, and I will get to them, but there aren't a lot. And while I was playing, I took a couple of notes on the side, so I'll be looking at them. But yeah, the negatives have been actually kind of very limited, and it's a welcome change. It definitely feels better at release than both O2 and 0.1 released. So at the start of the actual beta test itself back in December last year, and at the start of O2, this is so much better. Anything else about to catch up with my character? No, that's pretty much it. I've been having a blast. The TLDR is I've been having a blast. I think it's good, and if you haven't played it, or if you're angry at GGG, just get over it and play it because the game is fine. Alright, before I get into what I like, I'm going to go through the negatives, and there's only a few of them, like I said. So the biggest disappointment for me was opening up the warrior skill tree and seeing that not a lot has changed for the warrior. Especially the start of the tree is exactly the same, but to be fair, a lot of the problems with warrior's skill tree wasn't at the start. The start's pretty fine. It's the later nodes, the more powerful nodes, where you get a lot of damage in exchange for negative attack speed. And if anyone who's played warrior has looked at the tree, they know the nodes I'm talking about. Like, you get a 20% or 40% damage increase with two-handed weapons, but you lose 5 attack speed, and there are like 3 or 4 of these nodes, and even a couple of small passives that also give you like -1 negative -1 attack speed. and it never felt good, and it was disappointing to see that none of that was changed. There were a couple of small changes, like Resolute technique has changed, I think, a little bit. Everyone knows the Giant's Blood change and whatnot, so I was surprised to see that they didn't get rid of any of the negative attack speed changes. And that was disappointing because what it ended up doing is every single skill that I ended up putting rapid attacks into it. Rapid attacks is what martial tempo is called now. So basically, if you're playing Mace Warrior, and I'm pretty sure pretty much any melee character, you're gonna, one of your sockets is going to be rapid attacks. It just seems to be the case. And I am confident that they will find a solution eventually, but I will say the negative attack speed nodes on the tree, not helping at all. And the problem is, it derails you, and it takes, because of the derailment and you having to go off track and pick attack speed nodes on both the mercenary side of the tree and a little bit towards the Templar and Druid side of the tree. There are a couple of nodes there. You end up getting to the end of the warrior tree a lot later than you want to, and it just doesn't feel as good. You don't get that big power fantasy without feeling a little broken inside. So I do hope they eventually change it up. I don't think, apart from keystones and maybe some notables, I don't think there should be any big negatives, especially as big as like -5 attack speed. Like -5 attack speed is huge, especially for a new character. It's really significant, and they add up really quickly. So yeah, please, GGG. It makes me sad every time I open up the tree and I head towards those nodes. It just breaks my heart. Please stop breaking my heart. I beg you. So yeah, I talked about rapid attacks. I talked about the warrior tree. Okay, Abyss. Now, Abyss, I'm mostly positive on, but there are a couple of issues. The first issue is some of the mobs, the smaller mobs, are very overtuned, such as the, I think it's called the Vengewing, the little bat-like creature that just spits a lot of fire. That was tough to deal with, especially on hardcore SSF. You keep having to run back and try to take them on one by one, which is fine, but at the start, I think the first couple of maps that I came across it, especially with the Rust Kings map, they can stun lock you very easily, and it's just not fun being stun locked. And if you're playing a melee class, I know a lot of people are playing Deadeye, so maybe you didn't notice this if you're playing a Deadeye, but when you're playing melee, they can stun lock you really quickly, and things can go downhill very, very quickly after that. So, and I think there's a couple of other mobs that feel like that, but the one that sticks to my memory, like the one that's actually made a significant traumatic imprint on my memory, is the Vengewing. I even know the name. Like the other problem mobs, I don't even remember their names. So the Vengewing and a couple of other small mobs are a problem. The boss that spawns out of the Abyss when you kill the initial wave, it's also a problem because some of them are really big. They take up a lot of space on the map, and when you're in Draven and Asinia's, the Cemetery of the Eternals, when you're in the underground tombs, and it's already very mazy, and you've already got very narrow corridors, if you come across a courtyard all of a sudden with an abyss in it, it can get very hairy and very sticky. And when the boss spawns, if you're unlucky, there are a lot of hitbox issues with the boss, especially when you're playing melee. Like, for a lot of things, they've made the hitbox issue that you get pushed around a lot. Anyone who's played melee in Path of Exile 2 knows what I'm talking about. You get pushed around a lot. And it's gotten better over the patches, but when you're playing Abyss, when the boss spawns and when you're trying to fight the boss, occasionally it will block you and it will push you to strange locations that you're not aware of and that you can't plan for. Also in Act 2, when you first fight Jamanra, you know, before you fight him, and then like when you drop him down to about 30% of his HP, he runs off and then you hit the sand wall. Jamanra was pushing me around a lot more than he did in the previous patches, so I think that's something to look at. GGG, I know this video won't get to them, but in case it does, or if someone could mention it, and I'm sure others will also mention it, there's a lot of hitbox issues I'm pushing around with both the Abyss creatures and some of the bosses. And I do think it needs to be looked at, because you could easily just lose your character without even knowing what's happening. So, yeah. The Abyss bosses, they cause hitbox problems, they push your character around, they can also trap and block you. Okay. Again, some of the smaller creatures are a little bit of a problem. And my final real gripe with the game, the loot feels a lot better than it was previously. The 0.2.0 G patch, which they released I think mid-May or the start of May, where they buffed loot several months ago. That was, I played that patch and I was happy with that patch, but it feels even better now because of the new currency additions and a couple of other things that I'll get to. But it feels a lot better now. So if you were frustrated at Path of Exile 2 previously because of loot, it's so much better now. You can build your character, and actually, while the crafting is still miles off Path of Exile 1, it's still a lot better. But what isn't really good, and one of the main reasons why you do end up missing the crafting bench a little bit, is sorting out your resistances is still very luck based. If you don't drop the ring that, like, okay, at the end of Act 1, I got lucky with a vendor, and I happened to have enough money because I was farming a yellow chest that spawned near a checkpoint. So I kept respawning to my checkpoint and then running over to the box. And I farmed it a few times, and I got lucky to make enough money so I could buy a cold resist ring off the vendor. And if I didn't find that ring, I would have had to keep farming that yellow chest over and over again until the ring dropped. Because I basically got very few runes. Apart from the blank rune that you get from the quest, you have no power over what runes drop. And so getting your resistances to where you need them to be is a bit of a nightmare. Now I'm in Act 2, midway through Act 2, and lightning resist is a big problem. Thankfully, I've dropped a couple of topaz rings, and when I get a little bit more currency, I'll sort it out, I'll manage it somehow. But if those two rings didn't drop, I would be in a similar position right now, trying to find myself a yellow chest to farm and hopefully drop a topaz ring, or wait until the quest in Keth that gives you a guaranteed ring of your choice. Like, those are your only real options. So I think rune drops need to be either buffed significantly, or at least for the basic runes, for the resistance runes, I think vendors need to sell them. Maybe not in unlimited quantities, but like, I don't know, you should be able to buy 4 or 5 from a vendor per act, maybe. It would be so much better. Like, I understand what GGG's trying to do with the crafting, with removing the crafting bench. I get it, and I'm okay to see where they go with it. I'm fine. Even though when I did play Path of Exile 1 in the Mercenary League, I realized how much I missed the crafting bench. But you know, I still want to see what they're planning, but runes need a little bit of a buff or a change, or we need some way of securing our necessary resistances. I mean, on trade it's fine, right? You can just trade for it most probably, but when you're playing SSF, it's a big issue. You need to get lucky with drops. So yeah, runes need to be buffed or sold from vendors, in my opinion. And there's also still the issue of boots being useless without move speed. So maybe having, even if it's like a 5% move speed rune that you can slot onto your boots, it would go a long way, I think. So those are my main gripes, and that's about it, honestly. Now, I talked about the problems with Abyss. I want to talk about what I like about Abyss. Firstly, the vibe's immaculate. It's very fun. Apart from the blurry filter you get and the screen shake. I turned the screen shake off, but you can't disable the blurry effect when the boss comes out of the ground. That's another negative, small negative for the Abyss, but what I end up doing is just, as soon as the spawn happens, I just run away and wait for the spawning process to happen so that I don't have to go through that. But it's a big problem because sometimes you can't see any of the ground effects. You can't see some of the smaller mobs. So I hope they tune that a little bit. But other than that, the vibes, immaculate. The effects, great. I like the, I really like the atmosphere, the sense of dread it provides. I like the shade of green. I really like it. Like, I missed the Abyss patch, the league in Path of Exile 1, because I think it was one of their first leagues and I didn't play it back then, but man, this one was fun. This one was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. And on top of that, I like the new mechanic where you can craft, like, it's essentially unveiling from Path of Exile 1. I like the crafting mechanic that they've added to it. I like that the Abyssal Troves drop a fair amount of loot, but not too much where it's overpowered, but they drop a decent amount of loot. Like, I got 2 or 3 Orbs of Alchemy in Act 1 from the Abyssal Troves. I got, I think, like I said, I'm midway through Act 2. I dropped like 5 or 6 Exalted Orbs, and most of them were for Abyssal Troves. So that was very... the reward sense is there, even though I think that sometimes you fight like a couple of really hard waves, and then you get a blue chest that feels kind of deflating at times. But even the blue chests drop decent items and drop decent currency items as well, so it's fine. I'd need to see how it is in the end game to be more accurate in my analysis, but for the start of the game, I think it's fine. So overall, I really like the league. Even though it has some problems, I really like the Abyss League. And I'm pretty sure that, like they always do, the leagues are always overtuned at start, and by the next Monday or Tuesday after release, they end up balancing it. I'm sure they'll balance it this time around as well, but there isn't too much to balance, hopefully. Just some, just a few tweaks here and there, I think. Alright. The new support gem tiers feel so much better. The very long gap between tier 1 and 2 supports are much better abridged. This is... I wasn't expecting this to feel as good as it felt. I found that in the previous patches, after a while, your support gems... You feel good when you drop your first couple of support gems and you slot it in and you feel the power. And then after a while, it just turns into... Like, because I play Hardcore SSF, I would turn into a game of how many characters can I equip with the stash of tier 1 support gems that I have waiting in my bank. And, you know, that was a frustrating game to play because the only power spikes you would feel previously was basically when you leveled up or you got a big item upgrade, which was rare because you wouldn't get a lot of currencies. And, yeah, and you know, your skill upgrades from the tree, they aren't always very impactful. Sometimes they are, but most of the time they're just like, they feel good, but it doesn't feel as good as it does now when you get a tier 2 support gem that drops at the start of Act 2. Previously, you would basically have to make do with tier 1 supports until like almost the middle of Act 3. And that was a huge gap. Act 2 would basically mean nothing for support gems. So this feels a lot better. I also noticed that some of the skill gem drops are a lot better as well. I got my Leap Slam a little earlier than I did before, and I enjoyed that, which Leap Slam, by the way, is your tier 7. It's your tier 7 skill gem, so I got a little earlier than I thought I would, and that felt great. Dropping a tier 2 support gem and upgrading those support gems, and like getting Brutality 2 over Brutality 1 actually felt impactful. It felt good. And I can't wait to try other options. Right now, because you only have 2 sockets in Act 2, I'm not sure if they've changed that as well and if we'll get lesser jewelers or drops in Act 2. Generally, they don't happen before Act 3 or the very end of Act 2. But I'm willing to, I'm happy to explore and mess around with support gems as well. Like I said, I wish I didn't have to use rapid attacks, aka martial tempo, for every single skill, but I'm sure one at a time. But yeah, the support gem tiering looks good. The new support gems feels good. And on that note, being able to use more than one of the same support gems on your skills, it feels really good. It opened up more possibilities than I thought, other than just putting martial tempo and everything. Like, I'm already thinking of when I do eventually play my bow character. I'm already thinking of the poison bow or the bleed bow character that I'm planning to make. I see there's a lot more options now, and it feels good. Just the fact that, like, I dropped a bow, a fairly decent early game bow, and I was already planning, and I saw some of the support gems, and I was like, oh, when I eventually do something stupid and kill this character, I kill a lot of characters. When one of those Venge Wings do eventually spit on me and end up killing me, or when one of those big abyssal bosses do squish me up on a wall and kill me and murder me, and I do roll my bow character, yeah, I think I'll go for a bleed bow. Like, just being able to think of that feels good. So props there, the support gem, and I'm sure it'll get even better with time. Molten Blast was incredibly fun to use. I picked up Molten Blast just because I remember watching the reveal trailer. There was a line about Molten Blast, but I didn't remember what it was. I recalled something about it being more mobile, and that's it, because there were so many other details in the patch to think about. And I picked Molten Blast, and I was like, you know, I'll keep it as a projectile options in case I got stuck, and I did get stuck. Funnily enough, on an Abyss monster, but enough about Abyss monsters. I got stuck, and I used the Molten Blast a couple times, and I moved backwards. And I remembered why I never used Molten Blast before. It's because you kept moving forward, and you kept putting yourself in so much danger, and it never felt worth it. Just the simple act of being able to move away, it felt amazing, and it just shows that while people like to meme on meaningful combat in Path of Exile 2, I do think the combat is meaningful in Path of... You have to think about your positioning. It's not like in Path of Exile 1. I love Path of Exile 1, but being able to think about where you're going to end up at the end of your attack, or where you want to be at the start and where you want to be at the end, like planning that in your head, it just does something for me. I enjoy it very much. And I'm just glad that's a thing, and I hope we see more of that kind of movement rework on some of the other skill gems, but honestly, Molten Strike, it felt so good that I think I may make another warrior character just for Molten Strike. Like, try and main skill Molten Strike and make it as powerful as possible. I think I will get around to that eventually. It just feels right. And it just feels so good seeing a warrior skill feel better. After so many months, just seeing a warrior skill feel better. Actually try something and seeing that it's better than you expected. Oh, it's an amazing feeling. So yeah, thanks for that, GG. I appreciate it. Attacking the cursor instead of the ground, I think it's a lot of the positivity I feel towards the attacks. I think it has something to do with this change as well. I noticed it in the patch notes, and I thought I would pay attention to it, but I think, especially when you're using the Molten Blast, and they did mention in the patch notes that this would affect projectile skills better. And I think part of the reason why, apart from moving backwards, it's also like being able to aim exactly where your cursor is. That was also part of the reason why it felt so good. So I'm excited to try, when I build my other characters, when I go for more projectile builds, I'm excited to see how good that will feel. So great stuff there. I mean, honestly, that wasn't even something on my radar. That's just the change that they added in last minute for this patch, and I think that's one of the reasons why it feels good. So yeah, thanks for that too, GGG. And my final note here is drops feel better. Essences being targeted Regal Orbs is a fantastic change. Oh yes, I love the essence change. I as soon as I dropped one in Act 1, I immediately used it. No waiting. And even though I did drop a couple of Regals from the Abyssal Trove, so I wasn't as starved for Regals as in the previous releases, the change feels so much better than just a second affix edition. It just feels so much better, and I'm glad they changed essences. I still think there can be more that essences can do. Maybe even... well, not essences specifically, but there could be other currencies that add more than one affix, like an Orb of Alchemy. That would also feel kind of good, especially in the campaign. But the new essence change is a step in the right direction. It doesn't want to make me hoard them and be precious with them. Like, I can actually... and I'm actually excited to use... I think that's the biggest thing that I miss, that I'm having trouble articulating this because I haven't thought of it until just now, but I guess one of the reasons why crafting also feels good in Path of Exile 1, apart from the fact that it's more detrimental and whatnot, it's just you feel excited to drop currencies because you can think of the possibilities and you can immediately start planning things. And for the first time in Path of Exile 2, I kind of felt that. There's still a long way to go, but the essence change is a good change. And from my understanding, I didn't really try the unveil mechanic, the abyssal unveiling mechanic, but I dropped one jaw so far. And I understand that you basically add an affix to a rare item and you get to pick it. Like, the first time I tried the essence, my first thought was, this feels good. I wish there was a way to do this with exalted orbs. And I wasn't sure how we could go about it. But then I stumbled upon the abyss mechanic, and I didn't really pay attention again in the reveal trailer. And then when I read the jaw description, it was like, use this on a rare weapon to add a veiled modifier on it. And I was like, oh, this is exactly what I meant by something flexible with exalted orbs. So it's good. I'm not sure how frequently the jaws drop, but I'm looking forward to messing around with that. It's all of the changes in the crafting department are a step in the right direction. There's still a long time to go, but I'm glad that I'm vindicated in my thought that it's clear that GGG are trying to give themselves more design space with the upcoming leagues, and I like to see that that's pretty much vindicated. It really does seem to be the case. I mean, why wouldn't it be? Mark pretty much told us that that would be the case. One last thing, sprinting. I think it's fine. If I were playing softcore, I would definitely use it more. I used it a couple of times to backtrack. It feels good when you're backtracking, but it's too scary for me, so I'm not going to use it that much. But I think it's an okay addition to the game. I still think our movement speed is a little too slow, and that may have a lot to do with the fact that I only dropped my move speed boots at the end of Act 1. None of the shops had move speed boots. I came across one 10% move speed boots at the very start after I killed the miller, and it cost like 300 or 400 gold or something like that, and I only had 50 in my pocket. So I just looked at it with longing eyes, and then I never saw it again. But I'm sure they'll figure out the boots and movement speed thing with time as well. But yeah, enough yapping for now. I was hoping it would be a short video, but it's a half an hour video. If you haven't tried it, too long, didn't read, it's a great patch. If you were disappointed by the previous patch and maybe thought to yourself, oh, you know what, I'll give it a couple of days before I try it, don't give it a try now. I genuinely think it's a lot better than it is. I know people have had connection issues. For the first time in maybe 2 years, I had no connection issues whatsoever, no loading issues. Maybe because Hardcore SSF has less players playing it, so it's easier to load into towns and you don't drop instances. But the European servers, which I play on, have been great. I've had so much issue. Like, I was convinced that tonight would be a nightmare, but it wasn't. But I did see that a lot of people are complaining, and I hope they get around to fixing those people's complaints. But yeah, overall, smooth launch, fun features, only a couple of issues that they need to fix, and it's really not that bad. And I'm having a much better time than I had at the start of both the 0.1 patch and the 0.2 patch, and I think you will too. So yeah, drop by. I stream on Twitch and YouTube at the same time when I'm playing, and I'll be streaming tomorrow as well when I wake up. Drop by, say hi. Sometimes you'll find me talking in my own language, but that's because I don't have any English speakers in my chat right now. I've only got my couple of my friends dropping by, and you know, speaking in English while they're there feels a little awkward. But please drop by, say hi. We can have our discussions. You can ask me questions. I can ask you questions, and I really do think this patch is worth playing. So, yeah, enough yapping. I'm done. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.